Welcome to episode 2 of Cloud Chat with Stephan and Matt. I'm Stephan Stelter.
I'm Matt Brown.
Yeah, glad you joined us today for what should be an interesting conversation. In episode 1, we covered a little bit about centralization versus decentralization, what clouds look like, what we're seeing customers do in environments, and how the cloud has changed the way people think about IT.
Yes, it was actually a very interesting conversation. I love the some of the points that just came up, about COVID and the relevance of cloud in that state.
Yes, and the acceleration of digital transformation and some of the thoughts around how the cloud has changed what we do, and the big piece of deciding what to put in the cloud and when to put it in the cloud was some of the surface of the conversation we had in episode 1.
Let's kind of take a step back maybe and talk about IT's role in that.
Absolutely.
What do you think?
Yeah, it is. I think one of the core questions that comes up is, what is digital transformation, and what does that mean to an organization? We have this buzzword, and we touched on that a little bit, that may have found its genesis in marketing speak. What are we doing to make our organizations more streamlined, more innovative, reaching customers where they are, connecting with them, and so organizations are thinking about transforming digitally. So what does that mean from a CFO perspective, a CIO perspective? What are the thoughts around digital transformation in those areas?
Well, it certainly sounds like a lot of IT involvement, doesn't it?
It sure does.
But it's funny. People go digital transformation. Digital sounds like we're going to put a bunch of technology in place, but honestly, it's a lot of people, it's a lot of process, and it's a lot of business stuff first, isn't it?
It is. I think that that becomes a bit of the finger pointing that we talked about to some extent on our first episode, where when it sounds like there's IT infrastructure involved to support something. Well, it says digital in the word digital transformation. That sounds like it's IT's responsibility. And then from an IT perspective, the flip side is, well, what are we trying to transform? Who are we trying to reach differently with this digital platform or digital service or digital customer offering? So those become really interesting debates.
And then, how do I know when I'm transformed? Do I have wings? I mean,
yes.
Is there a button I get? I mean,
when is it? I know I'm done transforming. Yes.
Well, so let's talk about a few things there. First, if you talk about digital transformation, and you'd given a couple of great examples, becoming more efficient, etc. If you kind of take a step back, that's process efficiencies. That's business process efficiencies. Technology cannot help you until you have repeatable activities, right? Or until you have some type of building blocks. That's where automation comes in. So it implies a whole different type of an IT, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, and understanding who are the key members of the conversation, who needs to be in the discussion around what the process looks like, what things are going to be repeatable from a business perspective, and then how do we transform it? How do we build that into the IT infrastructure?
Yes, somebody needs to set that vision. Where are we going, right? Because we need to say, well, this is where we need to be, and somebody needs to articulate that and paint that ends well, because it's not an end state, is it? That initial target. It implies that you're going to probably do certain things more, and you're probably going to stop doing certain things. And that's a big conversation to have, especially when you talk about stopping certain activities, right? Because you need that focus.
And which things are okay to stop when you look at the things that IT is doing today. Okay, we want to transform. Well, there's all this work we're doing right now. It's not like we have people sitting around. The customers that I talk to, they're not saying, "Hey, we just got resources. We're just looking for something to do. This digital transformation thing sounds great. Let's try that," because we haven't. It's not like we're trying to keep the applications up and running, and we're not trying to make sure we're building in whatever other business process initiatives are in place. So those are like the care and feeding of the infrastructure.
You're implying focus again, right? So, and that's a hard lens to dial in, right? Because it's not immediately clear about what we should be focusing on. So in our example, in our NetApp example, one of the things that we saw changing in the marketplace was the need to have our operating system run across clouds. I mean, that was the only way it was going to be practical for our customers to grow with us. Clearly, that is an activity within the realm of a digital transformation, providing products that customers can consume digitally. and so that's I think a great example of a vision. But what it implies when you paint a picture like that is all the changes that need to happen in the business to really enable that. It's a different type of revenue generation, a different type of delivery of product, a different type of support of the product. Actually, it's a different type of engineering the product categorically. And you can see how quickly the vision can really put a whole company into a certain direction. And I think therein lies the challenge then for an IT shop. Do you have thoughts around that?
Yes, no, it makes me lean into the supporting cast to make these things occur, and approaching a cloud mandate, or and that's a topic all unto itself, just thinking about mandates in general for cloud. But when you want to have a direction, you want to support, part of the vision is the cloud. You think about the development cycles that are involved in that, and the rapidity at which they need to occur to accommodate for the changes in the cloud. So when you look at certainly the public cloud side of things, the capabilities of the cloud providers are evolving at an extremely rapid rate. And how do you make your offering that fits within those spaces align and allow it to take advantage of new capabilities as they're offered? So you need to be very nimble as an organization. From our perspective, to provide services in that side, in the public clouds. And then there's the same amount of nimbleness that occurs on the flip side, right? If you're a consumer of the cloud, if you're an organization that's using any one of the cloud providers, you have to build that nimbleness in yourself, because the cloud is a moving target. I think about the first time I logged into the AWS console, and when I log into it today, it's a completely different interface. It hasn't been around that long, but there's the capabilities have broadened dramatically. So how do you use them? How do you leverage them? How do you automate within those frameworks as they're evolving quickly?
Well, you touched on a whole bunch of things. I want to pull out one. Let's in the construct that we just discussed. We have a company direction. We want to make our products more available to our customers. You mentioned mandate, and let's I want to talk a little bit about that, because it's like, which one of these things doesn't belong to some extent? Here you want to express innovation and figure out how we're going to do this. And then someone comes up with a mandate to do it a certain way. I mean, those things don't seem like they go together.
Right.
Now, I think we both agree, based on our conversation yesterday, that the cloud is clearly the way to innovate, right? It releases the boundaries, but it's not a mandate, right? I think we need to agree on the type of resources we have, right? And I think you have to understand that if we were going a certain direction, we need to figure out collectively what resources do we have to get there. That's the mandate, is to be open-minded,
right? Leverage the right resource at the right place at the right time. And when we think about the topic of our time together, this cloud chat, there's this implication that maybe it's about public cloud only, and so much of where customers can gain efficiencies is through that private cloud capability. And that's one of the things I really enjoy about the conversations we have, is understanding the way that NetApp IT has built our private cloud and made it something that helps us with, again, the article we touched on in episode 1 was around the Andreessen Horowitz $1 trillion paradox, and understanding that putting the right workloads on premises is often the smartest thing you can do. Those right. Static kinds of cash cows that the company continues to generate great revenue on, why would you, if it's not in hypergrowth, the best way you can care for that workload is to care for it on premises. It's the most cost efficient way to do it.
Right. Well, it's funny. So I didn't mean to take us completely off track, but your point's very relevant there too. The private cloud, for people who were born before the cloud, I always looked at it as a stepping stone. But now, to your point, it's more than a stepping stone. It has a role. Yes. And our friends and our peer companies who are born in the cloud are realizing that private cloud has a much larger role than they ever anticipated. But I do want to get back to IT's role in digital transformation, because that was originally the conversation, or originally the question that you asked me, right?
Yes.
So how do we get back to that? So George painted this picture of, we're going to be a software. We're going to be more of a
George
Currian. George Currian, sorry, our CEO.
For sure. Yep.
And the goal was, how do we help our customers go into the cloud, and how do we create that experience and give all the features and functionality and really the benefit of our ONTAP solution that, it takes commodity solutions, uses less of them, and gives you more features. I mean, it's a beautiful story to be able to do that across the clouds. So when it comes then to IT, so what's our role? We've already kind of walked through it. Everything changes. Development, the financial tracking of it, how you sell it, how you support it, every aspect changes. And in the digital transformation, it's also implied that you're going to streamline costs. In our own use case, we were asked to cut our budget by more than half at the time this was going on. And we were talking about that monumental feat, change basically everything and do it for less. I'm going to pick your word that you had used. It's that whole focus. How do you focus your IT shop to really start to figure out how are you going to do that? What are you seeing in customers? I mean, we can't be the only customer going through this. You see many customers through the partner channels. What are you seeing there?
Sure. There's a mix of customer approaches that I see. And there are those where there's a cloud mandate, so that it just forces a forcing factor. And I think what's interesting about, and I'm getting a little bit off track here, but the interesting thing about a cloud mandate, on the one hand, it seems like it is that club that beats people into submission and it stifles creativity on the one hand. And I absolutely see that point. The other side of it is if we think about it in a less draconian way, and we think, well, maybe the cloud mandate makes sure that whatever we build is cloud ready in the sense that we discussed, where I can build it and put it into my private cloud, right? I'm thinking about the way the inputs and outputs in such a way that it could be in the public cloud, it could be in the private cloud. So, I think it's like many things up for interpretation, and it's the way that leadership conveys it to the rank and file that will really determine how something like a mandate is pursued. But I also have customers who are set on their silos, and they are having a very hard time with the process and the focus side of things. We've done this a certain way, and it's very difficult to overcome some of that internal process inertia to take on something new, because it is such a radical change, and the resources have diminished. So we definitely see that in the customers that I engage. I always enjoy hearing how we managed to do it at NetApp, and I'm excited to explore that more in our podcasts as we go through.
Well, what's funny, because we had started talking about it does require kind of a different approach to IT. I kind of want to go there a little bit, because your silo conversation to me really resonates, right? Because I see that too in customers. They want to cling on to the old ways of doing things, but also try to go in the new direction that the business wants to. Those two things don't seem completely aligned, and I think that's very hard for many of our friends out there in IT to really figure out what does it mean to change? What does it mean to maybe do things differently? I'll offer one point just as a talking point. I think it's the way IT has always been traditionally seen. In my opinion, IT in the past is being seen as order takers and the firefighters, the people you call when you have a problem.
We've been trained into that. The IT has been trained into that. You've almost been beaten into it. That is what we do. There's a lot of, you start seeing almost the gamification of support tickets. You get this feeling of success when a support ticket gets closed, and what will I do if I'm not closing support tickets, right? So
I don't have a job.
Right. There's an existential element there for sure. Very interesting.
But what this requires then is, we just talked about all those changes in finance, changes in support, changes in sales, changes in reoccurring revenue. I mean, there's all kinds of things. Now, you can't have an IT shop that's focused on support to do that, can you?
No.
And it does require us to then figure out, so what is our role and where do we really want to be? I mean, to be honest with you, when I went to get trained, I wasn't trained to take, ServiceNow tickets and answer them, right? I was trained to, you get a business problem, you work with the person and you figure out what the output should be and you deliver that as an output. That's,
Yes.
on a
You
greater
collect
scale.
the requirements documents, then look at what kinds of technical solutions can be involved in solving them, what kind of databases are out there to deliver it, what kind of front end do we need, what kind of middleware to connect to our existing systems, right? And then build that stuff, connect it, and you've got a nice 9-month, 18-month sort of plan. I don't know how long were those projects for you when you were
back then that was realistic, but today that's
don't
not
have that time. No.
People want to see incremental increases, which I think is also a change in how IT needs to deliver. So kind of coming back then, so what we're saying is, if the business is changing and they're looking to IT to enable that, and the old IT doesn't work anymore in terms of, we can't just be order takers. I can't just blindly listen to you without having an understanding not only where you're going next or where you're going now, but where you're going next. I need to make sure that whatever we're doing is scalable. I also need to realize, as you just pointed out, that it's not, we can't wait a year for results. We need to see results almost immediately.
How did that switch flip with the IT team at NetApp and with the C-suite to make, we were just talking about this order taker mentality for IT. How did you transition to be alongside the business and exploring how we can solve the process problem? It seems with many customers with which I engage, they're struggling to find that seat at the table to have those higher level conversations. They're just viewed as, we'll pat IT on the head and tell them what to do. They just don't have that clout, right?
Well,
Well, how did that happen?
As we kind of talked a little bit about yesterday, everything's a journey here, right? And I wish, it's funny because there's no prescription. And where we're sitting now, it looks like we did all these orderly things, because when you go and write history, you remember the big pivotal moments. You don't remember all the chaos that went around those pivotal moments. So our history looks very organized, and it couldn't have been farther from the truth. I would say that to some extent, our shift from being reactionary firefighting has happened unfortunately over 8 years, right? It's been a steady shift. You gain some success, you kind of give up a little bit, and you keep moving that needle forward where you're seeing success and seeing partnerships. But it does take strong leadership. It takes someone setting a vision and saying, you know what, we're going to spend more time here and less time here. And when we're spending less time here, you either need to figure out how to get rid of it or we'll use the word automation, how to automate it so no human beings are actually doing that work. And that's a slow, steady progression. I think the biggest change that we had came in 2 areas. The first being the fundamental shift in operations, that we were not being paid to just keep the business running. We had a role to play, and new metrics, new management visibility. And I think the second one is, let's stop talking about applications and start talking about capabilities, because applications tend to put us in a box. Well, the application can't do that. You know what? I don't care what the application can do. If the business needs the capability, what does that mean, and how are we going to be able to deliver? So I think those 2 different ideas kind of really started to shape our future. Now, does that get you there tomorrow? No, but every journey starts with a step. And I think the first step for IT is to understand who our customers are. And that's both internally to IT as well as externally. And just very quickly, because I don't want to take up all the time here.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to see how we start thinking about transitioning this into making that decision around which applications are important, which aren't. So I'm looking forward to that conversation as we continue going. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt there.
And I think that's where we'll close today. But where I was going with this is that even in IT, think of IT as an assembly line. Internal IT, they're the people who run the data center. They're the people who provide the network, the storage, the server processing, the middleware, the applications. I mean, the database, and you go up, right? That's an assembly line. And every group has an internal customer to eventually hit an applications team, who then has a business customer or possibly an external customer themselves. When you start to look at yourself like that and start to measure yourself, that starts to make that clean way of looking at yourself as a service provider. My job is to make the next person in my assembly line, in that analogy, job easier. But yeah, and you know, then you got to get into, okay, and I do think the conversation around capability versus application is very important too. So let's kind of go back to what you were saying, and you know, so
yeah, how do you classify them? How do we start making those decisions, and how did NetApp IT get the right people to the conversation to be able to have those priorities be determined around which applications matter? Because one would imagine that every application owner, every business who's dependent on an application is going to have this feeling that their application is the most important application, and the business will collapse if my application doesn't function or run, or we're not taking care of it.
And I think that's going to be our conversation for our next podcast is, you know, how do we do that assessment? And there's two things I want to end here. We as an IT shop, you know, one of I think our discoveries is it is about capabilities. So in a very quick example, people think, why go do a quote in a certain application, and that's all that happens in that application? Well, no, quoting could have lots of different elements. It can go and talk about the pricing, and you can see that capabilities aren't very rarely stuck within a application. So we really need to look at capabilities. And then to your point, how do we assess that? Because in that assessment, where does the business need capabilities? Where do we have gaps? Then starts to drive you to look at what you have and your capability to deliver. And then lastly, at least in that, to kind of set up our next conversation is, because you had brought it up, how do you do that at cloud-like speed, cloud-like agility? So it implies some level of architecture.
Absolutely. Excited for our next conversation. Thanks for joining us today, everyone.
That was all kinds of fun.
Absolutely. As always. Look forward to the next time. Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.